Sanje Jodang Soji Shonan Lang Chanjo Bado Dani Jasun Dagi Chujin Kibe Sonam Ki Dola Benje Sanje Dobara Sanje Jodang Soji Shonan Lang Chanjo Bado Dani Jasun Dagi Chujin Kibe Sonam Anda kawa 근데 산제 지리고 근데 지 고정 좀 배워 산제 아야 다 너도 심지랑 신라 심지랑 신라 공자당라 기진 니셰 바 디아고요라 당고 디아고요 한다 다 삼바디 스르려와 아니 타다 심나 파리 샤워디야 무슨 거 야고 유나리, 기고 유나리, 공매 유나리, 대화 유나리, 심제 유나리, 성도 유나리, 가리 유나, 아니 가리 유나. 디야 시바 디란 신디 그게 따다 디란 신디 세리 차지 내나 아니 심 세리 차지 신디란 신래 다시 그리어와 디야고도 거기 야고래 상나 그거도 누구래 상나 야고도 하나 자리 달라 신이 나와서
within that mind, so whether it's good or bad, you're not focused on that complexity or change. It's just different powers and different focus on that. Find it a bit more aware of how it
다 딜라 곰데 제두 심지 대바 제라 다가 지고 드디어 마음만 가진데 지고 예세리 드디어 한다 예 다추로 시바 하면 아주 심을 간 템버디 시바 예 가나 심제도 있나 이 심지랑 신의 다단다 타만 지가 표지
focusing on what you do in class. The ways to be aware of it, you need to do that or you can be aware of what your mind is remembering. This method is focused on aware of the mind.
어야 디 로그스가 기승에만 먼저 릭셰로 산제지 릭셰 그다 시수수 디디디셰 아니 단다 다 텐주베기 아니 릭이 단다 디셰 이게 디코스 말해서 텐주베기 스타 조식이 요라
So we were talking last week about when we looked at the four tenant systems in the approach.
제가 도나라 산제리 심라 심마지 심지란지 외세와 슬라상 심라 심마치디 심지란지 외세 어디 이 도그 틱다 귤라메 다 셰상마 다 디나는 시고다 다 디더래 와 심라 심라 심마치디 심지란지 외세와
So,
디나는 요르 도디 디제나 요
something like the
수차
super quote, like the mind, relating to the mind's nature is clear light. Get on.
네 심라 심마치 심지란지 심라 심지 마치 있어야 돼 먼저 되자다 시당다 니몬다 두두 심지란시 라 쇼요 말했어 디인자 심지란 시외 세바레스 심지란 시외 세바레스
So what's meant by this is when you think of mind, there's things that are adventitious, like Luke says, the adventitious means that it's not a natural part of something, but it's added on. And so these adventitious things, such as delusions and so forth, these are not actually the nature of the mind. The nature of the mind is this clear light.
이제 단다 줄라메디 베샤스마 추단 난가단 어두서 베샤스마 난가 추란 실라 녀고메 버와 난가게 난가라 아니 난가란 신 짐베 디디메와 두서 베샤스마 어두서 지고
Right, so you know, and then there are examples of things like mud and water, not part of water, or the clouds in the sky. So there's many examples.
일라 안데 인체다 빼고 시제가 녀모 부나 내가 됐다 좀 쉬어서 녀모 부나는 녀모와 녀모 줄라메 녀모 부나 내가 됐다 좀 쉬어 근데 빼고 시제 간다 빼고 시제 니서 빼고 시제 간다 그러면 녀모 부나 내가 됐다 좀 쉬어서 빼고 시제 간다 그거에 디바 산제 병에 당기 당마세더라 맞다지 빼고 시제더라 빼고 간다랑 식 간다랑 다랑 간데 녀모 저데 녀모 부나 내가 됐다 지셔 녀모 부나 근데 생기란 신데 산제기 리기 녀모 부나 녀모가 내게 녀모 부스 녀모 부팀이라 녀모라나 되다셔다 도나 게여로 이제 디디들 아니 산제기 리기 요레스 어디 가래 싱그레스나 아니 제일 빼고네 마 시그레스 빼다긴 시바 차스 어딘다
Okay, so we're on page 16 of the root text, or I believe it's page 170 of this one. If you page 16 of the small one, the first thing where it talks about the 9 similes, at present, the basic element, which is Buddha nature, dwells within the shell of afflictions and is known by way of examples. So this is, as it says, our Buddha nature is like this, abides, I guess, within these this like obscuration surrounded by these delusions that obscure it. And this, there are examples, that 9 examples that follow to explain this. Okay, so so we'll just follow the root text.
다나 빼고디 가래 쉐윈데 빼고디라 다디 쉐르 추어티라 추어노나 빼고거네 아니 산제지 릭디 쉐기요나 나 빼고디 가래 쉐윈데 아니 산제 뱅 등지 장말라스로 이분라님보 미자나나 세 살라데다 뉴소 대중당 구르나나 계획구다 금행엔베 또는 미다당 살라린 제수당 유신 that big within the
this line that this Buddha nature is to be understood through examples. Then it's, well, what are these examples? That question arises. So then it goes to illustrate these 9 examples. So, like a Buddha in a decaying lotus, honey among bees, grains within a husk, gold amongst filth, a treasure of jewels in the earth, a seedling and so forth within a small fruit, and a statue of the conqueror in tattered robes, a lord of humans in the womb of a lowly woman, a precious golden image in a clay mold. Similarly, the basic element of natural purity abides within sentient beings, obscured by the adventitious delusions.
Bit with me, Tawas to the wood. Tawas, Tawadina, Tawadina, big with the famous soldier from Adam, what they do on the war. Famous, but making it and Sanje Bang is at the Tanto Pedige, the Petang with the Medo Bamachero, Tadusalam Conzo Yagara, Sanje Bang Bamachero, and Sumba de Bumbache, Bumba City, drag, neg, Pale covering your store, Bumba. And a Mizanche, and a and Sawache, Sache, and Junjing, and a query watch, the big query watch, and a Puming to learning ba. To learning watch, and a Puming watch, Pumiche, and a salad in jail. Salad to be Lucona, so no, that's salad to be removing than the Zago. Seriously, I know to Segura. The big good did it, right?
Under the Buma de Candelab.
For me, Toa and
Worm. Yeah, and the Tamadi.
Salad to be any Lucon, the Nebali Pusova. The Madi Soga Dina Luda.
So, when you abbreviate these in the list. Okay, so, we'll explain. I've read through the list of them all, but to explain them in a briefer way, there's it's said to be lotus, bees, the barley. So when the barley, how barleys have a husk, and within that husk is the actual food. Dirt, like the earth, fruit. Then the example of old clothes is used, and then a worm, and then a mold. In this case, the old school molds in Nepal would be made of clay, right? And then they'd just break it off. It's not like a mold that splits apart like we used to have, right? Yeah, earth. Yeah, dirty. Did I not say dirty? Well, one's earth, one's literally unclean. So one's earth, the golden earth. Then there's literally means unclean. Like you could say, sorry, instead of dirt, say filth. That's better translation. Then it makes it clearer. So I'll just go over them again. Lotus, bees, barley, filth, earth, fruit, old clothes, a worm, and a mold. I mean, it's exactly what's written here. It's just abbreviated. It's not gone. Okay, so now we go to the commentary. Yeah.
Sanjay Rirana Stamachana, Hodia, Pictures, Pedan, Shadow, Ma, Yoda, Jill from the Inatanda. Sanjay Puyo or Sanjay Pu, Medo Payment, Gider Yuna, on the Tomara, Tomara. Then I see on the Sanjay Greek, and Medo Payment, she can your mom, the Jada, the Martin Chedero. And it did in that Sanjay Greek, said, Tomio, yes, that better than what it. Sanjay Put them on your
Okay. So when we talk about the first of these examples, when it says what are the examples in the commentary, we're on page 173 now, when it says what are the 9 similes. This is the first one is this illustration of a Buddha in a lotus. Now this is a lotus with the petals closed, so it's up like that, and then even though the image of the Buddha is abiding within there, we cannot see it, right? So this is an example of our Buddha nature. It's where it's there. This is there, but we are not able to see it now. Potentially we have the potential. We will see it later, but currently it's completely obscured by this delusion. This is from the view of the school that holds to yeah. So from the tenet system that hold that all beings have this Buddha nature. That's all. Okay. Okay, so if we go through them all individually, so this is the example. The meaning behind that is, within the 3 poisons, these are obscuring our Buddha nature, and in this case, the docha so did it. Yeah, so in this case, the attachment is obscuring this Buddha nature, and because due to this attachment, we're not able to see it. So we'll go through them all individually, but this first one is to illustrate how our Buddha nature is obscured by our attachment. Okay. Okay. So, this one is the example of how attachment obscures our understanding or our ability to see our Buddha nature. So, if you understand the examples along with the meanings together, then through understanding these examples and the meanings behind them, this is how you come to understand our Buddha nature. So, if we go through them each individually with the examples and the meanings, it'd be helpful. So the first one's to do with attachment. The meaning of the first example is obscuration of attachment. And the second one is anger. Third one is ignorance. Yeah. So then the rest will go through as like Dishemba Dijelaj. Okay, so this is the first 3. We'll go over the others as we come to them. So the second example of honey.
그래서 나다 정지
Drangsi or Bud?
장마 빼대 장고 빼신 장마도 좀 제주도 나나 정지요 통보면도
Oganda di Pe Tambo di Budrang or di Drangsi?
아
Di Pe Tambo Budrang or di Drangsi?
이제 정지 장마 찍고
Okay, so alright.
산재 뱅에 찍지
Yeah.
정지 장마 찍지
Okay. Yeah.
배가 디시에가 그래서 배나 뭐다 그만고 출고대 되나 장지요 하고 말아 봐 장지요 하면 거 인자 대나시 산재 얘기 아니 혼도 까지 산재 얘기 하면 유튜브에
Right. So then the second one, the example was you can say bees or honey is the word, but bees around the honey. So in this analogy, the honey represents the Buddha nature and the bees represent the anger, because if you've got a bunch of agitated bees surrounding some honey, you can't see it, right? You can't see it and you certainly can't get to it. So this is how anger obscures our Buddha nature.
제가 정지 천지 탑 태워 지제 아니 장마라 장마 파 비제 아니 먼저 정지 줄링으로 같은시 나도 최년에 콘도 당주자도 이거 파 세제 산지 비기야 세워지 어두스입니다. 그래야 되고
So just as if you are going to take honey out from a beehive, you have to do it very carefully, right? Like very calmly, very carefully. You can't just sort of just go in there and yank it out. So it's the same. When we practice Dharma, we need to do it with a very kind of clear way. Like we need to do it by clearing away the anger and the attachment and so forth. And when we clear these away, then we can actually perceive our Buddha nature. Okay, so then the third one is this husk around a grain of barley, right? Until you actually remove this husk, you can't actually see the barley, you can't get to it. So in the same way, this ignorance that is also obscures our Buddha nature, and until you remove that ignorance, then you will not be able to perceive your Buddha nature. Right. Okay, so this is a very Tibetan example, because in Tibet, well, with Tibetans, I shouldn't say just in Tibet. With Tibet, you have to they're really into their barley, but they have to kind of peel it all and remove all the crappy bits. They don't just kind of eat the whole thing together, because that would be pretty ridiculous, really. Well, did you have to husk the barley yourself?
Sure, it's enthusiastic about using the whole husk barley.
Oh, really? Wow.
Put it in his bag and beat it to try.
How long did that take?
It's very sharp, but
yeah. Okay. Did something and it wasn't very tasty at the end of all of that.
that was really sharp.
All right, yeah, this is an old example from India. I guess they had barley in India as well. Yeah. So then the fourth example is gold amongst filth. So if you have gold in a pile of rubbish, then surrounded under that you can't see it because it's obscured by all this rubbish. So this is the fourth example.
Deja Shidan Timu Sumra, Deja Shidan Timu Sumji Punange, Tango Samba Pe to Jajero, or deep between the Udita, Sanjay Rigi Pet Capture Yorota, Deja Shidan Timu Sum Yindola Yoina, and dig it that same. The Majuache, Misia, Kumakuya, Jekisha, Thomas name Weora, the Mango Shujo, Dina Mango Shujo, Tisune. Deja Shidan Timu Sumji Punange, and it did Sanjay did that pillar and that is Shadma.
So then the next example, the fourth one. Right. Yep. So in the example being gold in a pile of filth, the meaning behind this is an analogy for all of the three poisons. So just as gold is covered by a pile of filth, our Buddha nature is obscured by all of the three poisons. And motivated by attachment, aversion, and ignorance, then we do all sorts of things like killing, stealing, and so forth. And these obscurations in this is what obscures us from understanding our Buddha nature. These three poisons: attachment, aversion. That'd be handy. So, there were gods that have the power to see this gold wherever it is, right? If it's a pile of filth. So if you happen to be mates with a god, right, they can point out to you where the gold is. So I think that would be pretty handy. If the Buddha Center would soon build wish-fulfilling land if we had one of those. Dukkha consider this here. Oh, the ZZ. Oh, okay. Right. So there's also a story of Doga Khyentse Rinpoche who in Tibet, in Tibet he had this one place where these in his home there was a Naga who kept giving. Do you know what a Z is? Anyway, so a Z is a special Tibetan. It's like a bead, but it's occurring naturally. Like they have fake ones now, they make them, but these are naturally occurring, and they have what's called eyes on them. So the more eyes it has, the more valuable it is, and they believe it has more power to protect from all sorts of things. Yeah. And it protects from lightning. If you get struck by lightning and you have one of these, it won't. Yeah, and they protects from many things, but all sorts. So anyway, these are extremely valuable in Tibet, and the more eyes it has, the more it has. But the Nagas have apparently lots of these Z's, and they kept they kept Dugo Khyentse's Nangla, right? Okay, so they'd offer to Dilgo Khyentse Rinpoche's home, right? So these would just appear. And that's why it was said to be a very wealthy place, because it had all these Z's, and they're really expensive. Mm. Mm. Ah. Okay. Correcto. Your mother got hit by lightning. Oh. Okay. So some people have these ability to actually see these Z's. Like, I guess this is his mother was able to find one, because apparently these things move like insects, right? And so it's moving around, and she was able to see it and grab it. And this had 6 eyes on it, so that's quite a lot. And apparently she was wearing this around her neck. One day she got struck by lightning, and when she was struck by lightning, the Z cracked, but she was fine. She didn't get hurt.
내 uncle, he is monk. He been retired, and he told if the cat, cat has lost jewelry come out, and some people coming, all jewelry disappear. 밀레가 캡나네 마트용 근데 좀 공제돼. 아 미드레나 예로. Okay, so when he was meditating, all these jewels would kind of hang from, like, come down from the cave, but when people arrived, they'd all disappear. So like that, in all countries like New Zealand or wherever, there's gold around, right, under the ground or wherever it is. If you have the merit, then you can bring it out. If you don't have the merit, then you can't get it. So it's like this with the Z's or these examples here. In India, there we have one friend, he's Tathagatha. And he do Tathagatha, farm. And he found big gold, big gold. And Indian people operate in Naga, they need some give commission, and others in Naga hung with all family, this story like that. And he lived there, put some special signature covering, and he go back home, and he asked his best friend, oh, I have one God, and I need some this ritual, do you know? And he said, oh, he said, okay, you give it, you could buy, you need to buy chicken, something like that, you need some opening. And he went in Koshanaga, and he went chicken. And he said, wow, he said, he all the time, you don't transparent, he said. I know he's our call it glass cutting. He's coming. He's talking the video language very well. He said, you don't we believe it's our best friend. Now that I was really rich, so yeah, like this, there's a jewel. Yeah, so this one's similar. A jewel buried under the earth. Mm. Penabore. 제가 우부 제대는 세상 만들 스텝나라 너무 제대로나 시 산지 리기 요래 이나 만들 신기요 말다지 요 다디 가리 집이요 병 가리 집이나 말이 과자가 싸싸야 다디들 말이 과자가 싸싸야
So the Marik Bakchak.
Mari Paja Mari Paja is Stas.
Oh, the seed. Okay.
Mari Paja is Stas. Mari Tango de Mari Dosa.
Right.
Mari Paja is
Bakchak di sa.
Dig.
Okay, the imprint.
Mari Paja
This okay. The base. So this one is next one. It's like the example of a jewel in the ground. So if a poor man is living in his house and there's a jewel underneath, like a very valuable jewel underneath the ground, this is the example of us with a Buddha nature. We have this incredible Buddha nature, but again, we can't see it. So this is the example. So we've covered off ignorance, but this is the imprint of the base imprint of the ignorance. Marik Bakcha Gisa, right? So the base or the ground imprint of ignorance.
Mari Paja is Sala then Sagi, you take to the Didegora. Sana Latina, Tete, Haritonga, Sag Didera, Madi, Madi, Madla for Earth. Earth Didera. Then she Mari Paja La Sala wedding. Manzugi come the worship in the Sana she did Sana the revolution still cut there. Then she and on the Mari Pajagi only Sanji Ringo.
So the example here is just as the ground, like if a jewel's under the earth or under the ground, we won't be able to see it. In the same way, our Buddha nature is obscured by the imprints of our ignorance. So this is why we're unable to perceive it. Tukpa. So the next example is that of a small seed. So a small seed can produce an enormous tree, right? However, even though it has this potential, we can't see that potential. We can't see the potential that it has to produce this massive tree. We only see this tiny seed. Tongpan Tongkom. Pangja. Tonglam, okay. Okay, mid. Okay. So this is about the abandonment of the obscurations we're getting onto now. So when we talk about the obscurations, there's the obscurations of abandonment for the path of seeing and the obscurations to abandon in the path of meditation. And then there's the Theravada and the Mahayana obscurations to be abandoned. So we're looking at the Theravadan ones first. So if we have these obscurations on the Theravadan path, as long as as long as we have those, these will obscure our Buddha nature. We can't awaken our Buddha nature. So this could be Trukpati Tekmengi depende de Trukpati Tekmengi Tongbang. Okay. The Trukpa. So just to cover off the sixth one, the meaning is the obscuration is the Theravadan obscurations to the path of seeing. Right?
예. 다 전부디
Now the seventh.
그르나는 계획보다는 그르가 둘러진배는 산제 입구대 샤제는 나로는 통마로 산제 입구에 통마로
Okay.
베테.
So this is the example of a statue of the Buddha wrapped in old robes or old clothes.
다 지나시 먼저 산제 입구에 이미지 고마 요나 산제 양은 지구야.
Yeah, so these are the obscurations, gomlam. Gompang. Oh, okay, sorry. It's not path. I've made a mistake here. Okay, so it's not the obscurations on the path of seeing. It's the obscurations to seeing and then the obscurations to meditation. So the first one's the obscurations to seeing on the Theravada vehicle, and the second one is the obscurations to meditation obscurations or meditation obscurations. No, it's not path. I just checked that. The gomlamara of meditation, that which is to be abandoned on the path of meditation in the Theravada vehicle. So the pervasive imputation, do you remember that? So this is Dangzagi Takme. Dangzin Kundak. So the not the grasping, relating to the self of the person. Soul. Okay, so the examples of this would be the Hindu idea of Atma and the Christian idea of soul. These are okay, conduct. Okay, so this conduct is it's just contact. Literally means pervasive imputation, but it's established in relation to a belief system, right? So like soul or like Atma. So animals don't have this, and human beings who don't have a particular, like non-religion or don't have this idea of soul or anything like that. And Buddhists don't have this. Okay. Lengye. Yeah. So Lengye is more like naturally arising. You could say innate. So this innate grasping at the self. So this is what's to be abandoned on the path of meditation. So this is the meditation abandonment, literally translate, or meditation on the path. Abandonment on path of meditation. Right. Okay. Take chamber tower nang la dinondru. Dinyi non-regret. Yeah, dinyi non-regret. Okay, yep. Yeah. So these why are these said to be the obscurations on the path of seeing, the path of meditation for the Theravada vehicle. It's because in order to attain this hero or solitary realizer state of an arhat, you have to, these are the things that obscure that, block that make it cause difficulties or make problems to do it. So these two obscurations, the obscuration, the like, or a pervasive or established, you could say established by view is, and which is the obscuration on the path of seeing, and the innate one, which is the obscuration on the path of meditation. These two are what the Mahayana school called the obscuration, the obscurations to liberation. No, the teaching it to di ni non-debre. Okay, so the Hinayana school hold these two as the obscurations to liberation. So dini di tong la. Yeah, dini non-drip. So yeah. So the Mahayana school holds these two. Dini. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so these two are held to be the obscurations to liberation, right? So we have the obscurations to knowing or omniscience and the obscurations to liberation. So these two that we talked about, these two of the Hinayana vehicle, these two are what are said to be the obscurations to liberation. Yeah. So yeah. So these are the the Hinayana school, the Theravadan school obscurations of meditation. Or we could say these are the obscurations to attaining the state of a Theravadan arhat, as opposed to Mahayana arhat. Okay. Are we following all this? Is it cool? So us as Dharma practitioners, for example, if we feel, to be born as an animal would be really bad, my next life will experience a great deal of suffering. So therefore I'm going to practice Dharma in order to prevent that from happening, in order to be born as a human being. This would be a small scope practitioner view. In the Lam room. So right. So what you might then go on to think is, well, actually being a human being isn't all that it's that great either, right? It's a bit crap here. So, there's all the suffering and so forth. So therefore, we should strive to attain liberation for oneself from this suffering of samsara. Being born as a human being is not enough, because you still have to experience suffering. So therefore, you develop this motivation to attain liberation, individual liberation, for oneself. So this is the state of the hero and solitary realizer arhat. So this is the middle scope view. And then okay, right. Oh, right. So, for example, then it's like, okay, if you want to attain liberation from samsara, then what is it that you have to abandon? You have to abandon this grasping at the self of gangzak dagmedo. Yeah. So you have to realize the selflessness of person or abandon the grasping at the self of a person. So what prevents you from doing this? Well, if you have this view of Atma or soul, then this prevents you from abandoning the yeah. So if you hold on to this constructed self, like an Atma or a soul, then you can't realize selflessness of a person. So then it becomes clear. So now example 8. Ashoka, Gandalf, Ashoka. So then this one, a lord of humans in the womb of a lowly woman. So this lord of humans is actually here said to be a wheel-turning king. So, you know, and while the mother's pregnant with this person who's going to become this wheel-turning king, so become incredibly famous and powerful and spread the Dharma and so forth, nobody knows at that time. So an example of somebody who's like a wheel-turning king would be King Ashoka in India. Okay, 10 grounds. Mata Matakasena? Mata? Right. Mataksena? Oh, okay. You, okay. Oh, not abandoned, okay. Okay, not clean. Not abandoned, no. Okay. So the meaning of this is when we look at the Mahayana vehicle. So we have the 5 paths, accumulation, preparation, seeing, meditation, no more learning, and then also the 10 grounds. So when we're looking at the Bodhisattva path, so the Mahayana path, so somebody from the beginning who's set out with the motivation to attain enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings, when we're talking about the path of seeing, the path of meditation, up until the 7th ground, you still have not completely removed the obscurations to liberation, obscurations to liberation. So this mata is not abandoned or it's not clean. So the word literally means if you have a stain on a clothes and you wash it, but the stain somehow is some of it's still there, that means that not removed. So the stain of this until the 7th ground, you still have these obscurations to liberation. From the 8th, 9th, and 10th ground, then you're removing the obscurations to knowing or omniscience. Okay, so as long as you have these obscurations to liberation, then you can't see the Buddha nature. You can't completely see the Buddha nature. Yeah. Okay. So okay. So, alright. So then the ninth example is when in Nepal, for example, when they make these Buddha images, they'd make this mold, and then they'd pour gold into it. Right. So then within this mold, this clay mold, there is the image of a golden Buddha, right? There's a statue of a golden Buddha, but we cannot see it because it's obscured by this mold, but it's still in there. So this is the example that's used. So there's many people in Tibet who made statues Okay, yeah. So yeah, Tibet they make them, but they don't really make a business of selling them. But Nepalese they like selling them.
The the people made the Gishi Kundin, Gebakunji, Chabi Gishi, the Gebakunji, the Buddha, he made. Yeah. And the Dharamsala Buddha, one Tibetan made. And the Selshi Buddha face Tibetan man, body bring in Nepal. First test, no really nice, and then he worked with Nwadi, one Tibetan man, and he made Dharamsala, same person, Dharamsala Buddha state, Buddha, and said she is very nice technique, very nice. Maybe. 다 대한은 뒤지지 마다 사진 답변은 다 예고 그거 주어도 타고 사진 타고는 다 윤리 요마도
Okay.
다 대한은 다좀보다 오래 다좀 말고만 타고 사진 다 예고 그거 주어들라 아니 윤리 요마도 있는 그 방자 요로 요리나 산재기 양은 유튜브 요마로 다디 아니
Okay, so Tagagis means like stain, right? So the first one it says Matag is like the non-stain, so it's maybe more gross dirt, you could imagine like that. And then the last three, it's actually removing the stain. So at this point you've abandoned the gross obscurations to liberation. So that's been completely abandoned, but you still have these the obscurations to knowing or omniscience, these subtle obscurations still have to be abandoned. So that still puncture, the objects of abandonment are still there. Okay. Right, so when we say obscurations to knowing, that's the literal translation. What are we referring to here? Well, for example, the Arhats have abandoned the Theravada Arhats have abandoned the obscurations to like the grosser levels, the grosser delusions like attachment, aversion, and ignorance to an extent, right? They've abandoned that, but they haven't abandoned the obscurations to knowing. So, for example, they can't see karma the way a Buddha can. Like they can't, they don't have a full understanding of karma, saying this result is the cause for that result and this type of thing. So these kind of obscurations, fully understanding karma and these things, this is said to be the obscurations to knowing.
Yeah. Anche sumnella non tabo stessa, già c'è da come sum yene, anni so c'è come qui a tentare di avere lo della.
Okay.
Dice.
So,
Mari go paja c'è, na c'è. Mi comban tuce. Mi comban tuce. Mata sa din ban da ke c'è. Tabo sa din ban da kudo.
okay, wait. 1, 2, 3, 7, 8, 9, 3 poisons. Di ngapa karere? Pangcha. Marikpa Bagchak. Imprint. Ignorance. Yep. Low. Seeing. Low. Mid. Dini Gepati. Non. Okay. Non-stain. Matag stain. So to go over these 9, okay. Yeah, the meaning of these 9. So the first one is to do with attachment. The second one is anger. The third one is ignorance. The fourth one is all 3 poisons. Oh. Okay, so the okay. So sorry. Motivated by the 3 poisons would be more literal. So we do activities, killing, lying, stealing, and so forth that are motivated by these 3 poisons. So it's the motivation of these 3 poisons. Then the fifth one is the imprints of ignorance. The sixth one is the Theravadan path of seeing obscurations. Then the Theravadan path of meditation obscurations. And then the Mahayana literally means non-stain. And then the Mahayana stains. So this non-stain is the obscurations to liberation, and the stain is the obscuration to omniscience. So the drupcha di pe and the drupcha di dripcha conda dripcha is di pe. Yeah. Okay, so dripcha karisi? Right. Oh, okay. Right. Lasa. So when you understand it, you can understand it in terms of that literally would be that which obscures and that which is obscured. Right? So, for example, of the first one, the lotus is that which obscures, and the Buddha inside the lotus is that which is obscured. And from the meaning of that, that which obscures is the attachment, and that which is obscured is the Buddha nature. Yep. Let's see. Here we go. Page 21. Oh no, wait. Attachment, anger, ignorance, the dominant states. Oh, here we go. Yep. Page 21, verse 1.131. It says here, attachment, anger, ignorance, their dormant states, their forceful arising, the abandonment of the path of meditation and the path of seeing, and those pertaining to the pure and impure grounds. Commentary about all of these things and so forth. However, this gives an overview, the explanation of these examples and what is obscured and so forth. So then we can go later into more detail. Any questions? Is it clear? Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. I'll try and find it. Jen, can I have a look at the table? Oh, yeah, can I have a copy, please? Dile, yeah. Dila pego dini kare drupche drupcha dini tondak any drupche damakamad. So suchness lineage. Okay. Kirango? Yeah, that's good. Right, so if you understand this, then you understand all of the lineage thing. No. Okay. So from the Buddha, from the perfection vehicle, from the perfection vehicle, it said that we have this Buddha nature. From the tantric vehicle, the subtle mind, Sangigi. Oh, okay, sorry. We have the power to be a Buddha, and the Sangnakti Sangi. Subtle mind, Karirin Sangi. As the subtle mind is the. Okay. Okay, so for example, when the gross mind's working, the subtle mind's not active, right? So when you're caught up in the gross minds of jealousy, attachment, pride, all of these things, right? Then at that time, your subtle mind is dormant. Right. So for an ordinary person who's not a meditator, apart from dying and taking rebirth, then the subtle mind doesn't really pop up at all. It doesn't really have doesn't function, I should say. It's like it's sleeping, or it's dormant it's dormant. Okay, so just this chart, just learn that. This is homework. Five paths, yeah. Rangsangi. Okay. Right. Okay, so also you want to be clear on, so there's the 5 paths for the hearers, 5 paths for the solitary realizers, and 5 Mahayana paths. So there's 15 paths there, and then there's the 10 grounds. So, and then so within that, what is what is it done in the first 7 grounds and what's done in the 8th, 9th, and 10th ground.
They are aware. They do same way. They
Right, so this is very good to know because then in future, if we practice Tantra, then these 9 examples are very good. Okay, so we'll stop here. D. Okay. Tanda log. Okay, so yeah, if you read it later, right, like read over this. Okay, so if you can read this, you can also read the root and then also the commentary on these things. It's not that long.
Meditation,
Okay, so the first meditation we did this clear nature of the mind that we.
Yeah,
So this is a method. This method of simply remaining present with the mind, so not engaging in the past or the future, but just being aware of the mind as it is in the present, like whether it's happy or not, or whatever state the mind's in, simply being aware of that. This is a very good practice, and this is a very solid practice. This is a practice in the Mahamudra lineage. So this is very useful because in our lives we have like difficulties and problems and things arising. But if you can arise and just observe these things, then it becomes very good for just having a much more peaceful mind. So if you can do this meditation and get some experience, that will be really helpful.